Call now.
From the News Channel 5 Network, this is OpenLine.
Well, good evening and welcome into Open Line. I'm Chuck Long, glad to be along with you for the next hour. Excited about our show tonight. We have one of our most popular guests, always generates a lot of calls, a lot of conversation, a lot of discussion. We're going to be talking about medical malpractice. And, you know, I've mentioned this before, but it's one of the most sobering statistics I think I've come across in a long time. So I kind of like to put this out there before we actually get into a lot of the conversation. But when you're talking about medical malpractice, according to the Journal of the American Medical Association, medical negligence is the third leading cause of death in the U.S. behind heart disease and cancer. So that is right there a sobering statistic. And we welcome again one of our most popular guests, Clint Kelly from the Kelly firm, attorney. Clint Kelly, it's great to see you as always, Clint. And I don't know, every time I see that statistic, it just always kind of jars me because you just don't realize that. You know, medical negligence is responsible for a lot of injuries, a lot of death, and that kind of thing. But to be third, that's really pretty scary.
Yeah, it's hard to get your mind around when you think about the fact that maybe what puts it in perspective is more people die in a hospital or are injured in a hospital in a year than the population of Nashville. And you just let that sink in for a second, you realize that it's a serious, major health problem that we have, and fortunately we have the courts that can help pick up the pieces.
Right, and that is. So as we get started in the show tonight, as always, Open Line, it's your forum. So we love to hear from you. A lot of people call in when we have Clint with us. You know, one of the things when you're thinking about medical malpractice, when you're thinking about medical negligence, I know a lot of people out there, you're thinking, well, does it affect me? Does it affect somebody in my family? Does it affect a friend? Well, this is why we are glad that this show is here, so that you can call, ask your questions, your comments. We welcome them throughout the hour. Clint, kind of as we're starting for folks that are just tuning in for the first time, medical negligence and medical malpractice, just kind of give us an overview of that.
Yeah, what you have is two things. You've got a major medical mistake that produces a major medical injury. If you have those two things, then you potentially have a case that could become a lawsuit. And we call them medical malpractice, healthcare liability actions, negligence, but it all fits within the same group of negligence cases involving medical mistakes or nursing mistakes.
Well, and as always, when you're here, we find that people have a lot of questions because a lot of times, whether it's the time frame, whether it's the case, whether it was, I mean, it's not necessarily just medical negligence. It could be, you know, a prescription that was distributed the wrong way. I mean, there's a lot of ways, there's a lot of pieces that go into this. One of the things that I think people, and it's always amazing because we say this often when you're here, is the time frame. If something happens, what is your time frame? Because there is a statute of limitations on it.
That's right. You have got 1 year from the date that you discover the injury to bring what's called pre-suit notice, to actually serve that as a document. There are very few exceptions to that. So the rule here is that anytime you suspect that you or a family member has been the victim of a medical mistake that produces a major medical injury, pick up the phone and call a lawyer, call me or someone else who specializes in medical malpractice litigation and get a consultation. It's free, and it could be the difference between finding a way to have your medical bills and lost earnings paid to getting nothing.
Yeah, and you know, and one thing that too is important is to know there are not a lot of attorneys who specialize in this specific area. And that's one of the things, my hat's always off to you, is because you guys specialize in this. You have gone to trial with these, you've settled them in court, you've settled them out of court, but you really have to be a specialist in this area.
Yeah, you do nowadays. It's gotten to be such a specialized area of the law, and what we have to do is we have to take a written examination, a verbal examination. We have to have a certain amount of jury trials that we've been lead counsel in that are specifically medical negligence or hospital negligence cases. And then there's a group of peers who has to approve our membership, and that's how we become certified. And you're correct, there's a very small group of us statewide that are certified as medical malpractice specialists.
Well, and it makes a big difference. As always, we say this is your forum. Questions, comments, you see the number on your screen, 737-7587 is the number to call in. People are already starting to call in. We appreciate your calls. We're going to go right to the phone lines right now. Vicki is on the line with us. Vicki, good evening. Do you have a question or comment for Clint?
I
I do. I mean, because I'm dealing with a case right now, and I just found out that I was misdiagnosed, and I was put on all the medication and everything for the diagnosis that they had given me in 1998. And when they abruptly stopped the medication like a year and a half ago, and I had a seizure and everything coming off the medication,
Vicki, you cut out just a little bit. Could you repeat that?
Sounds like Vicki dropped off.
Yeah.
One of the things that can happen is if you...
And I just want to know what kind of liability. Would you please just tell me how strong this case is?
All right. Vicki, what I'd like you to do is I want you to call my office tomorrow morning at 615-824-3703, and I want you to ask to speak to Nurse Kathy because a lot of your audio cut out, and so I can't really help you very much here. What I can say is that one of the areas of negligence that can occur is where a patient is taken off one medication and put on another medication without appropriate safeguards. It's rare, but sometimes those reactions can be life-threatening. And so that's one of those things that you want to take a look at and see whether or not there was a good cause for taking the patient off the medication and whether there was some violation of the standard of care in terms of having that patient switch to another drug.
And that's the important thing, too. You see the number on your screen. We had it up there for you to call in because, again, the call costs nothing. And I think a lot of people always have that fear of, oh, if I call, it's going to cost something. I can't afford to. It's a consultation. It doesn't cost anything. So make sure that you jot that number down, and you can always call their office. Now, our phone line's already busy. We're going to go right back to them. Nancy is on the line with us right now. Nancy, good evening. Do you have a question or a comment for Clint?
Yeah, I have a question. My husband was diagnosed, it should have been diagnosed in June of 2013, was not diagnosed until December of 2013. The doctor from Michigan called. We were here in Nashville. And anyway, that doctor says, well, I want to see your husband in 6 months versus a year because he's got bladder cancer. The question was, he always goes for his physicals in June, and there was a large amount of hematoma or blood in his urine, and the stupid doctor didn't send it to have a sensitivity and a culture to show he would have had probably, and I would say 100% bladder cancer at that time. So we proceeded to call Vanderbilt, and Dr. Miller, she did a biopsy, and sure shooting, it was cancer. So he was in the hospital for 1 year at Vanderbilt here doing ECGs and so forth. And then in 2016, 2016 or 15, he had surgery to remove the bladder. Nobody wanted to take this case in Michigan, and I didn't know if it was feasible to get somebody in Tennessee. But I wanted to if I didn't even get any money, if I got it, it would have went to St. Jude's for the Cancer Foundation.
Unfortunately, I can't advise her on what to do with regard to Michigan law because that's I'm not qualified to practice in Michigan, so I don't know what the laws would be there. Hematuria is the medical term for blood and urine, and it can be really bad news. And so if someone sees blood in their urine, that's a red flag. You need to get seen immediately, and if the original opinion isn't satisfactory, go get a second opinion because that could be really bad. I feel terrible for her that that there was this misdiagnosis that lasted so long.
Yeah, that is tough. Nancy, we know that's a very tough situation. We do appreciate you calling in this evening. Our phone line's getting busy. If you do have a question or comment, go ahead and give us a call. We are going to take a short break, but when we return, we will take more of those calls right here on Open Line, so come on back with us.